Howdy, howdy, and welcome to the Outside In Podcast, your place to learn more about the latest happenings in office services and facilities management outsourcing. Today, we're talking to one of my favorite people, Kim Oleniak. Kim's customer service first approach to facilities management makes her the perfect individual to talk about the challenges customers face in managing their office services nationwide across multiple offices. I hope you enjoy this conversation as much as I did. Excellent. Well, Kim, I'm so excited that we've finally been able to track you down. I know we've been trying to do this for several weeks, and you're even now in between travel locations. So, where are we talking to you from today?
Today I am in Pittsburgh.
Excellent. So, today we brought you on to talk about a subject I know you're really passionate about. We're here to talk about the challenges organizations face managing their offices and facilities management services nationally. But before we jump into that, can you give us a little background on what makes you a leader in the office and facilities management outsourcing field?
Well, that is an interesting question. I've always had a passion from all of my career for looking at the best ways to conduct business, to make it easy for the end user experience, to be the most efficient possible, bringing in solutions. And so to me, it is all about being able to do more with less and being able to give that end user or that requester the experience that they really expect. So going above and beyond, it's fun, it's energizing to me. So I've always had that passion. I started in the operations side and eventually went into sales. And for me, sales was merely a way to help organizations better structure their business and come up with solutions that are creative.
Excellent. I love that coming up with those creative solutions. I think people so often get sucked into the world of facilities management and just think it's really by the textbook SOP, but finding those creative solutions are really important. I think that really hones into what we're talking about today. So I'm curious, when you're talking to these different facilities managers and real estate managers overseeing multiple offices, large campuses across the country, what are some of those most common daily challenges they're facing that you're looking for these creative solutions for?
Sure. I think today offers a lot of different types of challenges. Post COVID, people coming back to work, the structure of the office. How do you manage the space? How do you attract end users to come back in? So every location, when you're talking multi-campus, based upon where it is it in a major city or is it in a not so major where people are coming in? So I see a lot of not much, not many challenges in the Midwest as I would see out of a Chicago, a New York, an LA. So there's those sorts of things. So coming up with solutions that are really globally for the organization, but then more importantly, structured locally on each and every office need. So that's the challenge is every office is different. So you have to really tailor what is what you're trying to do on a global basis to that local institution and making sure that we're delivering that level of service.
Excellent. One of the things I really like that you said that I hadn't even thought about. So a St. Louis or a Kansas City, they're seeing a higher percentage of people in the office versus New York or Chicago?
That is correct. Yeah. And I think what really narrows it down is how do they get to work? Are they using city transit and public commuters? And so that becomes the bigger challenge that, oh, I have a train ride that's going to take me an hour, hour and a half to and from. So that's a 3 hour commute. Why would I do that when I can just roll out of bed and start to work? So the challenge for those major metroplex areas are commuting. It's beyond just the office space. It gets into the commute, it gets into people's time and what they've been used to for the past several years.
Excellent. So you talked about attracting that employee or those employees back into the office. What are some of the things IST does to help that client create an environment that attracts those people back in?
I think what I've seen here most recently is helping and assisting with maybe corporate lunches, having a anchor day where you're to invite as many people in. So you bring in the Danishes and you're coordinating food efforts and just extra extra camaraderie things that would want to attract people to come into the office. So we assist with that. We're assisting with, whether it's little tchotchkes on desks or welcoming parties or even happy hours. We are assisting with those as well. So companies and law firms are really getting creative on what they want to do for that experience to get people to come back in. They're missing out on the collaboration of the office, the water cooler conversations, and I think that that's the big miss when you're talking to executives in these corporations.
Oh, absolutely. We experience that every day, and it's important that collaboration that happens. It's organizations understanding that the days that you're in the office are going to be different productivity than the days that you're outside of it, and getting the employee to understand that, but also that executive can be a difficult challenge for sure.
Yeah, and interesting. I was talking to some folks this week, and some of them are saying it's really not, bringing people back into the office. It's not really about the Danishes. It's not really because they're not seeing as big of success rates as what they thought they would. But it's more about the people. You just have to get the people in, and people interacting with people is what's going to be the most attractive. The other things are the extras, they're nice, but it hasn't been completely successful. Another trend that I'm seeing is when allowed, when able, offices, the clients are looking to downsize office space. So how do you shrink your office space based upon today's population, which might be, on a good day, 30 to maybe 40%. If you get 40% occupancy, you're doing good. And they measure that every single day. So they know how their rates are running. So if you get to a 40% and you're able to shrink down your space, then you got better utilization of that space that's very costly. Um, what we're looking at is a lot of hoteling solutions. So you asked earlier, how does IST help and participate in that? Well, we're coming in and we are kind of the concierge, if you will, for that space. So somebody that knows that they want to come in next week, I'm going to be in on a Tuesday and a Thursday. Terrific. They sign up for a location. We actually have little lockers or little rolling bins, if you will, that we come out. We wipe down, we set up their space so it has a little bit of their extras, maybe a picture or two or what have you, their own phone, their own personal items. So set that all up, and then when they're done for the day, we come back in, we clean that all up, we pack everything up, and then put it away for the next time that they come in. So we're seeing that be a big trend in the future. This way, they're minimizing their space and their cost, and it's fully getting utilized.
No, that's absolutely fascinating. I can't even never even thought about having little personal lockers that you're able to put your personal items in and then have them brought back to you when you reserve that desk. Beyond those personal items, I have to assume mail and overnight deliveries are a real challenge in the hoteling world. So, how are IST solutions helping with those areas?
Yeah, well, since the pandemic, actually, our systems have been wonderful. So anything that comes in from an overnight perspective, we're tagging that package, and you get an email notification immediately that says you've just received a Federal Express or and who it's from. So the end user, whether they are in the office or not, they know that they've received it, and they can simply make a choice to, hey, could you open that and scan in the content to us? Could you put that on my desk or give that to Mary, who's my assistant? So they have options at that point in time and they can direct us to where they want that package to go. And then we track and they get a notification when that delivery has been made or when that scanned content of receipt has been delivered to them. So that's probably been a very proactive approach, and that's not going to go away. That has to continue. When it comes to USPS mail, that becomes another little bit of a challenge. So you don't want to put something that's critical on somebody's desk and they don't know about it and they don't come in for a week. So what we've been doing is moving a lot of our clients to digital mail application. So you open the mail, you scan the mail into them, If it is something confidential, the key is we might not be able to open it, but still scan the envelope so that the end user knows that, hey, I've got a check or I've got something that's critical that needs paid attention to, so that then they can go back and have somebody either take that off their desk or we can relocate it to accounting or to wherever it needs to go. So communication and our systems, I think, have been fabulous and will continue to be in this hybrid model that I don't think is going to go away. I mentioned earlier the Midwest, you do have a lot more people coming into the office, which is terrific. So when I go to Indianapolis, let's say, they don't have the same challenges. So, our systems are still good for them, but they're also really terrific for those major areas that are having the problems with getting people back into work.
Yeah, and I love you talk about those different challenges. And one of the biggest challenges in managing these large multi-campus things is finding that balance between consistency and customization. So, how do you work with your client contacts and those key real estate and facilities managers to find that perfect solution for everybody?
Yeah, it can be a challenge because you've got different departments, you've got different people with different ideas on how they want their information to be handled. So when you take an accounting department or you take a records department or what have you, everybody's going to have their own SOPs and standard operating procedures. So we want to drill down on what works best for that department, and then we come up with the best way to manage that incoming mail or those packages, the overnight packages. When we utilize our systems, we use voice recognition, for an example, for USPS. So as we're using voice rec, we actually have notes in there that say this mail gets handled this way. So we know we open, we scan it, we send it to the recipient, or we know that we forward any mail that comes in for an individual that is from a certain, let's say, company, that has to go to accounting immediately, or that has to be forwarded to so and so. So our systems tie us back to how do you manage departmentally? How do you manage office by office? Every office is going to be different. So it's great that I think the conversations that we see out there when they have multi locations, across the country is this is how we want things to be handled globally. This is how we want them to be managed, per se, and these are the standards, and that's great. But then we have to drill down to that local office and make sure that how do we comply to what their needs are within that standard. So that's where we create the operating procedures that really allow us to be successful and hit all the major goals. One thing that's been happening that we've seen when in managing multi offices that I'm pretty excited about is a couple weeks ago, there was a major snowstorm up in Salt Lake City. Nobody could get to work. So that meant nothing was happening when it comes to copy, mail, those sorts of things. Copy and production and scanning is a critical physical need, but how do you get that stuff done? Well, we were able to shift all the work over to the Phoenix office in this location. That it was really seamless. So if I'm at home and we're all still working and we're all still producing, at the very least, we were able to get things out the door. We were able to print and be able to ship and do things from another location. So what we've done is we've set up our national deals to be able to manage remotely. If in case there is a disaster or something happens within a particular city, we can keep supporting that particular office. So that's been pretty cool.
No, that's super fascinating. And whether it's a natural disaster type situation with that recovery or whatever, one of the real keys in all life, but in managing these is communication. And that's one that you're talking on that is really important because those people in Salt Lake City were able to quickly and easily be able to communicate with Phoenix and through our technology shift that work. How does IST and how in these situations is communication handled so you're able to have those shifts in work very easily?
Well, like in that particular case, we have access to everybody's inboxes. So across the country, we'll be able to pick up at any point in time and access that inbox. So now we're managing and we're communicating through a a means that everybody's used to. So it's not like you have to tell everybody make a shift. It's us that's shifting behind the scenes so that we can be able to support the office. And I think that that's critical. You don't want to create or have barriers to where people have to kind of figure out, how do I have to manage my work today? So the key is, how do you behind the scenes make things happen with and then you can communicate that, hey, this is Kim, I'm in Phoenix, I'm going to take care of your job, no problem. That's what they need to know, is that it's acknowledged, um, of receipt, it's acknowledged, it's going to get done, and they're typically very thankful that somebody has already just pinged on that. So communication's really critical. Our systems allow us to communicate, I think, extremely effectively to any end user. And of course, we can modify that level of communication. Some individuals want, I want to know when every package comes, I want to know everything. And then others, they don't really want to know. No, I want my assistant to know. So we can actually shift what it is, what knowledge base, how much information you want to receive on a daily basis.
Excellent. No, that's fascinating. So, beyond geography, not every office is created equally. Obviously, you're going to have your headquarters, your regional offices, and sometimes even those really small offices that might just have a handful of employees, and it doesn't make sense to have an IST employee on site there, but it still makes sense for them to have those processes that we're building. So how is IST able to not only support that office with 40 of our employees, but those offices that have none of our employees in them?
Exactly. So what we typically do is we'll go in, we introduce ourselves and our services, and give them the access, so they know who's who. Everybody across the country is going to know who they can go to, who's their single point of contact for, say, big production jobs, or for a big mailing that, hey, they only do once a year, but they've got their go-to people. So we, for every single national account that we have, we make sure that there's a point person that is responsible for that one single point of information gathering, as well as helping and assisting and directing. I think that that is the key. We'd like to have local support and management, but what's really different with IST is then we take that local support and offsite support and funnel it still through that single point of contact. So that single point of contact isn't necessarily tied to the account, and the account's not paying for that approach. The account is just supported by that approach. And we found that to be unique and actually very helpful for our clients when we're going back to a single point of national contact. They have more information and they know more about what's going on within the organization than what they have maybe previously.
No, I love that because obviously you got to have your local support, but that person in Phoenix doesn't know what's going on in Indianapolis. So now that you have that single point, they're able to connect those dots and then be able to say, oh, we need to make a global change or a local change or
Exactly.
move this process that's been successful here over to there.
Absolutely. And we're also seeing that, how can the West Coast better support the East Coast? The East Coast shuts down earlier. We got a little more time on the West Coast. So we're seeing ourselves shifting and balancing work volume. So you don't necessarily have to have all the employees, a hub, if you will, just in one location, but how do you kind of move that workload across the country?
Absolutely. Obviously, recruiting's a big thing that we hear now. Finding the right people, keeping the right people. What does IST do to make sure that it's hiring the right people for each one of these locations that has that desire to complete the services the way we need them to do it?
Yeah, that's a great question. I think right now we've had probably the most success in recruiting and finding individuals that, number one, have the passion for what we do, and are really customer service and focused on the end user experience. We look for people that come from that hospitality background. We can teach the business, we can teach technology, but having that servant's heart and having that ability to anticipate what the needs might be, or that personal experience. We have been very successful in finding great individuals, and many that have been in the industry for 20, 30 years that find an IST approach very refreshing to work from. I think it's critical that when we're taking over an account, we're often asked, can you hire these employees? Absolutely, we would love to hire, employees that are legacy, team members, and we want to bring them onto the IST team. I typically will go back and ask them, "How did we do for you? How's that experience?" And they love it. They get more communication, they get more support. They've got local management that's there to support them. They could feel like they can take time off and not have to worry about what's going to happen with their customer. So we really drill down on that supportive measure for the site managers, for the site team, and I think that that's critical, and I think we're attracting more and more people because of it.
It sounds like the more things change, the more things stay the same often. And that when it comes to recruiting, it's finding that person that has that desire to serve. And when you find that person, you can train them to be that employee that you need them to be.
Exactly. And then you're also looking for it's a balance because you also want some subject matter experts that understand shipping requirements and needs, and overseas shipping is much different than, national shipping within the US here. So it is a true balance of what you're looking for, but I think we do that extremely well. And kind of bringing in a mix of individuals that really bring a good experience for the customer ultimately.
Excellent. I
Mhm.
know you've got a busy day and you got a flight out to St. Louis. And I know that's out to one of our ALA clients. So just one last question. I'm just curious, what are the differences you see in supporting a multi-campus corporation versus a multi-campus law firm?
That's a great question. I think when you're dealing in the corporate environment, the conversations are wrapped around um, the real estate. They're wrapped around, how are we being efficient, safety measures. They're wrapped around utilities conversations. So it's all about, the space, and it's probably a little less about that customer experience. So we're really focused on not just customer experience, but also surroundings. If we're delivering the mail and we see light bulbs out, we have to report that. If we see a safety issue or a hazard, we want to report that as well. In law firms, those things are important, especially on say, a concierge floor, where their customers are going to be. So you don't want burnout lights and things like that. But their true focus is production work, quality, making sure that it's a white glove service and the approach is maybe a little higher level as far as what their needs and what the experience that they're looking for is. So you go from kind of, the basics of real estate to the white glove concierge in the law firm experience.
Excellent. And luckily, our technology and people processes allow us to be able to provide the highest level on both of those.
Absolutely. Yeah.
Excellent. Thank you so much, Kim, for your
Yeah.
time
Thank you.
today. This has been fabulous.
Alrighty. Well, thanks. Take care.
Excellent. Thanks. Bye.
Bye bye.
Once again, I want to thank you for listening to the Outside In podcast. If you want to learn more about how IST can help you manage your office and facility services coast to coast across multiple offices, please visit us at istmanagement.com.